Have you ever been in an argument where you just know you're right? I mean, you have the facts, you have the logic, you have everything on your side, but the other person just won't budge. It's like talking to a brick wall, and the more you push, the more they dig in their heels. It's so frustrating, right? Or what about this? Have you ever had a belief that you've held for years, something that's a core part of who you are, only to discover one day that you were completely wrong? It's a terrible feeling. It makes you question everything. Your stomach sinks. You feel a little embarrassed, maybe even a little dumb. We spend so much of our lives trying to be right, trying to feel smart and certain. But what if that whole goal is wrong? What if the most important skill we can learn is actually the skill of being wrong? That's the powerful idea behind a book that totally changed how I see the world. It's called Think Again: The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know by Adam Grant. This book is a game changer because it shows us that in a world that's changing faster than ever, our ability to rethink and unlearn is more important than our ability to just think. If this sounds interesting, do me a quick favor and hit the like button and subscribe, because we're about to go on a journey together. In this video, we're going to dive into some of the most mind-blowing ideas from the book. We'll explore the 4 mental traps we all fall into that stop us from learning. We'll look at the strange science of why we can be most confident when we're actually most wrong. And we'll uncover the secret joy of discovering that your old beliefs were mistaken. And make sure you stick around until the end, because I'll show you step by step how I personally use the big ideas from this book to get unstuck on a major career decision that was making me miserable. I was so sure about the path I was on, but I was totally wrong, and this book gave me the tools to figure that out. I'll share the exact process I used, so you can use it in your own life too. The 4 mindsets that trap us. Okay, so let's get into the first big idea. Adam Grant says that when we think and talk, we often slip into the mindset of 3 different kinds of people: a preacher, a prosecutor, or a politician. And all 3 of these can get us into a lot of trouble. Imagine you have a belief that's really important to you. Maybe it's about politics or health, or even the best way to make coffee. When someone challenges that belief, what's your first instinct? If you go into preacher mode, you start delivering a sermon. You're trying to protect and promote your sacred beliefs. You're not there to listen or debate. You're there to convert the other person to your way of thinking. You already have the truth, and you just need to make them see the light. We've all been there, right? Preaching about why our favorite sports team is the best, or why pineapple does or doesn't belong on pizza. But what if you see a flaw in someone else's argument? That's when you might switch into prosecutor mode. Now, you're not trying to convert them. You're trying to win your case. You attack their logic. You point out all the reasons they're wrong, and you do whatever it takes to prove your point. The goal isn't to find the truth, it's to win. You're marshaling arguments to prove the other side is guilty of flawed reasoning. Then there's the third mode, the politician. When you're in politician mode, you're not really focused on what's true or what's right. You're trying to win the approval of your audience. You might say things you don't fully believe to get people on your side. You campaign and lobby for support. You're more focused on being popular than on being correct. You know what's crazy? We can slip in and out of these 3 modes without even realizing it. The big problem is that when we are busy preaching that we're right, prosecuting others for being wrong, and politicking for support, we forget to do one very important thing: rethink our own views. We get so busy defending our beliefs that we never stop to ask ourselves if they're actually correct. This is exactly what happened to the company that invented the smartphone, BlackBerry. You remember BlackBerry, right? Back in the day, everyone who was anyone had one. The guy who created it, Mike Lazaridis, was a genius. He started out thinking like a true scientist. He had a hypothesis. What if people could have their email in their pocket, on a device they could type on with their thumbs? He tested it, he built it, and he changed the world. But then, the iPhone came out, and Mike Lazaridis got stuck. He went from being a scientist to being a preacher and a prosecutor. He preached about the superiority of the BlackBerry's physical keyboard. He prosecuted the idea of typing on a glass screen, saying it would never work and that it drained the battery. He was so busy defending the thing that made him successful in the past that he couldn't see the future. He was stuck in his old way of thinking. His company, which once had nearly half the smartphone market, fell to less than 1%. BlackBerry didn't fail to adapt. The people running it failed to rethink. This brings us to the fourth and most important mindset, the scientist. When you're in scientist mode, you don't see your beliefs as sacred truths. You see them as hunches, as hypotheses that need to be tested. A scientist isn't afraid of being wrong. In fact, a scientist is actively looking for reasons why they might be wrong. Their identity isn't tied to their opinions. Their identity is tied to the search for truth. They run experiments, they look at data, and when the facts change, they change their minds. Thinking like a scientist isn't just for people in white lab coats. It's a mindset we can all use in our daily lives. When you're deciding on a career path, you can have a hypothesis about what you might enjoy, and then you can run small experiments to test it out, like volunteering or taking a short course. When you're in an argument with a friend, you can be curious about their perspective instead of just trying to prove them wrong. This is the heart of the book, moving away from the comfort of conviction and into the joy of discovery. The confidence trap, why we don't know what we don't know. So if thinking like a scientist is so great, why don't we do it more often? One of the biggest reasons is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's one of the most fascinating and, let's be honest, funniest findings in psychology. The basic idea is this. Often, the people who are the most incompetent at something are also the most confident in their abilities. You know what I'm talking about. It's the armchair quarterback, the person yelling at the TV screen who is absolutely convinced they know more than the professional coach. It's the person who's terrible at grammar, but thinks they're a great writer. In the original studies, researchers David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger gave people tests on things like logic, grammar, and even humor. And they found a clear pattern. The people who scored in the bottom 25% on the tests consistently and dramatically overestimated their own performance. On average, they thought they performed better than 60% of the other people, when in reality, they were at the bottom. You know what's crazy? The reason for this is that the skills you need to be good at something are often the exact same skills you need to recognize how good you are. If you don't know the rules of grammar, you can't write a good sentence, but you also can't recognize that your sentence is bad. Your incompetence robs you of the ability to see your own incompetence. Adam Grant calls this being stranded at the summit of Mount Stupid. It's that dangerous place where you have a little bit of knowledge, just enough to make you feel like an expert, but not enough to show you how much you still have to learn. And the problem is, if you think you're already at the top, you stop climbing. You stop trying to improve. Why would you need to rethink anything if you're already an expert? This overconfidence is a huge barrier to rethinking. It makes us defensive when we get feedback. It makes us dismiss information that contradicts what we already believe. We all have moments when we're on top of Mount Stupid. I've been there many times myself. Now, what about the other end of the spectrum? The book talks about the opposite of the armchair quarterback, someone with imposter syndrome. These are the people who are actually highly competent, but they feel like frauds. They feel like they don't deserve their success and are secretly worried that one day everyone will find out they're not as smart or talented as they seem. For a long time, we've thought of imposter syndrome as a bad thing, something that holds people back. And it can. But Adam Grant shares new research that shows it can actually have some surprising benefits. Feeling like an imposter can motivate you to work harder. You feel like you have something to prove, so you put in more effort. It can also make you a better learner. If you doubt your own knowledge, you're more likely to seek out other perspectives and learn from others. The book tells the amazing story of Halla Tómasdóttir, who ran for president of Iceland. When she started, she had only 1% support in the polls and felt like a total imposter. She had no political background, but instead of letting that stop her, she used her self-doubt as fuel. It made her work harder and smarter. She knew she didn't have all the answers, so she listened to everyone. Instead of pretending to be a polished politician, she was just herself, a curious, humble learner. And people loved it. She ended up shocking the country by coming in second place, beating many experienced politicians. So we don't want to be the overconfident armchair quarterback, but we also don't want to be paralyzed by self-doubt. The goal, Adam Grant says, is to find the sweet spot of confident humility. This is such a cool idea. Confident humility isn't about having medium confidence. It's about being confident in your ability to learn, while being humble about what you know right now. It's having faith in yourself to achieve your goals in the future, while also recognizing that you don't have the right tools or all the right answers today. You can be confident in yourself without being arrogant about your methods. This mindset gives you enough doubt to keep learning and enough confidence to keep going. The secret joy of being wrong. This next idea is probably the most challenging one in the whole book, but it's also the most powerful. It's the idea that we should learn to embrace the joy of being wrong. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you found out you were wrong about something and felt happy about it? It sounds weird, right? We're taught from a young age that being wrong is bad. It means we failed a test, we made a mistake, we weren't smart enough. But Adam Grant asks us to see it differently. Think about it this way. When you discover you were wrong, what does it mean? It means you've just learned something. You are now less wrong than you were a moment ago. Every time you realize you've made a mistake, it's a chance to update your understanding of the world. The discovery itself can be a moment of delight. The reason this is so hard is because of our ego. We get attached to our beliefs. This is a huge theme in the book. Our opinions become part of our identity. If you're someone who identifies as a dog person, and someone tells you that cats are actually better, it doesn't just feel like an attack on your opinion. It feels like an attack on you. Your brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, can light up in the same way it would if you were facing physical danger. We go into fight or flight mode to defend our beliefs as if we're defending our very lives. So how do we get over this? How do we stop our inner dictator from controlling our thoughts? The book suggests we need to practice detachment. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you change what you attach your identity to. There are two kinds of detachment that are super helpful. The first is to detach your present self from your past self. You have to be okay with the idea that the person you are today is different from the person you were yesterday. Ray Dalio, a famous investor, says, "If you don't look back at yourself and think, 'Wow, how stupid I was a year ago,' then you must not have learned much in the last year." I love that. It's not about being hard on your past self. It's about celebrating your growth. The second and even more important kind of detachment is to detach your opinions from your identity. This is the big one. Instead of defining yourself by what you believe, you define yourself by what you value. For example, instead of saying, "I'm a person who believes in this specific political policy," you could say, "I'm a person who values fairness and compassion." When your identity is based on values like curiosity, learning, and open-mindedness, it gives you the freedom to change your mind. Your opinions are just one possible way to live out your values. If new evidence comes along that shows a different policy would be more fair and compassionate, you can update your opinion without feeling like you've lost a piece of yourself. You haven't abandoned your identity. You've just found a better way to live it. Adam Grant tells a beautiful story about meeting the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, Daniel Kahneman. Adam presented some research, and Kahneman said he was surprised by the findings. Adam expected him to get defensive and try to poke holes in the research, but instead, Kahneman's eyes lit up and a huge grin appeared on his face. He said, "That was wonderful. I was wrong." He was genuinely joyful to discover he was wrong because it meant he had learned something. He had become less wrong. That's the feeling we should all be chasing. Putting it all together, my personal rethinking story. Okay, so reading a book is one thing, but actually applying it is what really matters. So, I'm going to show you exactly how I've been using this. Like I promised at the beginning, I'm going to share a story about a big career decision where I was completely stuck and how the ideas from Think Again helped me find my way. A few years ago, I was absolutely convinced that my future was in graphic design. It wasn't just a job. It had become my identity. I was the creative guy. I spent a ton of money on fancy software and online courses. I told all my friends and family about my plan to become a freelance designer. On the outside, it looked like I was passionate and driven. But on the inside, something felt wrong. I enjoyed parts of it, but the day-to-day work often felt like a chore. I'd spend hours moving pixels around, feeling more drained than energized. But whenever I had a little flicker of doubt, I would just push it down. I was trapped in the mindsets Adam Grant talks about. I was in preacher mode, constantly giving myself sermons about how graphic design was my calling and how I just needed to try harder. I was in prosecutor mode against any other career path. When friends suggested I look into writing or marketing, I would immediately attack those ideas, calling them boring or not creative enough. And I was in full politician mode, trying to convince everyone and myself that I was happy and thriving. I was posting my best work on social media, seeking validation, while ignoring the growing anxiety in my stomach. Reading Think Again was like someone turning on a light in a dark room. I realized my identity was completely attached to my opinion that I must be a graphic designer. That belief was threatened, so my whole self felt threatened. So I decided to try something different. I decided to think like a scientist. My first step was to reframe my belief. Instead of treating graphic design as my perfect career as a fact, I started treating it as a hypothesis. A guess that might be right, or might be wrong. This simple shift was huge. It took so much pressure off. Next, I needed to find my confident humility. I had to admit, okay, I might be totally wrong about this whole graphic design thing. That was the humility part. But I also told myself, but I am smart and capable enough to figure out a better path. I am confident in my ability to learn. Then it was time to run some experiments. A scientist doesn't just guess. They gather data. I didn't quit design or make any drastic changes. I just started running small, low-risk experiments on the side. I'd always been a little curious about writing, so I offered to write a few blog posts for a friend's small business for free. I was also interested in video, so I made a short promotional video for a local nonprofit. I told myself these were just data-gathering missions. And you know what's crazy? The data was clear. I felt more energy and excitement creating that 1-2-minute video than I had in the previous 6 months of design work. I loved the process of crafting a story. The feeling wasn't just, this is fun. It felt meaningful. The final step was experiencing the joy of being wrong. When I finally admitted to myself, my hypothesis was wrong. Graphic design is not the career for me. It wasn't a moment of failure. It was the opposite. It was a moment of liberation. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted. I wasn't a failed graphic designer. I was a person who had just discovered something true about himself. I was now less wrong than I was before, and that felt incredible. This process didn't lead me to a perfect answer overnight, but it opened up my mind to new possibilities and eventually led me down a path that feels so much more authentic and fulfilling. So, the biggest lesson I took from Think Again is this: intelligence is not the ability to think and learn. True intelligence is the ability to rethink and unlearn. It's about having the humility to know what you don't know, the curiosity to seek out new information, and the courage to change your mind. This book is packed with so much more than I could cover here, including incredible stories about how to help other people rethink their views and how to build learning cultures at work and at home. I seriously recommend you buy the original book for a much deeper dive. It's a book I know I'll be rereading for years. If this video helped you think a little differently, please hit that like button so more people can find it, and subscribe for more summaries that go beyond the surface. And I have a question for you. What is one thing, big or small, that you have rethought in your own life? I would love to read your stories in the comments below. And if you're ready for another summary, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching.